Good morning. Welcome to our Sunday worship service. I am Julie Skiving and I'll be your celebrant this morning. I've been a UU since 2015. After a lifetime of Presbyterian, I moved to Moscow and found my people. Our sermon topic is anxiety. I have a very long history of wrestling with that little demon and pretending it's not there. So when Peggy asked if I could be the celebrant on this day, I thought, how did she know that I was such a good fit? I got to wrestle with that demon a little bit yesterday, waiting for the gas people to come and turn us on. Sorority. All of us house moms are on a group chat, and at noon, the first one said, okay, I'm on. Half hour later, okay, I'm on. 8 hours later of me pacing and being near the front door, they finally came. I saw the truck at the fraternity right next door. I actually went outside and paced up and down the sidewalk waiting for them to come out because my anxiety was not going to let them get away. And I was the very last one. But we could all take hot showers this morning. Hallelujah. I'd like to extend a special welcome to all those who are joining us for the first time. We are very glad that you're here. If you've come in person, you should have received a welcome packet with an information card on it. If you fill that out and drop it in the offering basket, we'll be in touch to support you in finding your way into our community. If you're joining us online, there's a link on our website to an electronic version of that same card. Our welcoming committee members have yellow name tags and can answer any questions or point you toward additional information. Whether you are new or not, please consider staying for coffee and conversation after the service, either downstairs in our fellowship hall or in our Zoom room. And now let's say our words of welcome together.
Sorry guys, that's the old one.
I can't see it. What are they? Whether, is this the right one?
You can give me just 1 second.
I can't tell if it's up there.
Yeah, I know, that's all Sam's fault. You should see it here.
It's this, right?
There we are.
Ready? Whether this is your first or your 1000th Sunday with us, and whether you strolled, rolled, zoomed, ran, or danced in, we are glad you chose to join us. We are one people of many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders. All are welcome here. I have an announcement. There is a new member ceremony November 19th. Are you ready to join UUCP? Sunday the 19th, we will have a new member ceremony as part of the service. If you are ready to officially join the church, please let Reverend Elizabeth or Elizabeth Berlinger know beforehand. Elizabeth is at revehstevens@gmail.com, yahoo.com. You will be asked to submit a very short biography. Now we'll take a moment to say hello across the technical divide. Are you ready to turn on your cameras, Zoomers? If you're at home, wave. Now people attending in our building, it's your turn to wave. Nice. We do have a couple of announcements. November is the month when we ask people to pledge their financial support for the coming year so that we can put together an operating budget. You should have received a mailing with materials to support your pledging process this coming week. I know I got mine. Please let us know if you didn't. Meanwhile, all this month, a member of the stewardship team will host a table in the fellowship hall after the service where you can trade a pledge card for a chocolate truffle. As usual, the goal is not to give until it hurts, but to give until it feels good. knowing that our ministry is a vital and necessary one here on the Palouse. Know too that your support at whatever level feels good to and right to you matters. None of us could keep the ship afloat on our own. It takes all of us, each doing our part. We preface our service by acknowledging our church was built on the ancestral homelands of the Nimiipuu, called Nez Perce by the French-speaking traders, the Palouse, and the Chichumps, called the Coeur d'Alene. Let's pause and remember that we live on ground that is sacred, ground that was stolen, ground that cries out for justice and for responsible stewardship. May our remembering help us find the courage to do our part to restore wholeness to the earth and all her peoples. And it's time to light the chalice. Oh, I thought it was you. We're hoping that folks joining us via Zoom have a chalice or candle to light and something to light it with. Let's light our chalices together. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share. Let songs of hope and love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung in every land by every tongue.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Brown, and I have been attending services here at UUCP for a little over a year now. I am so grateful for the opportunity to speak to you again. Today, I would like to share some thoughts on how we can deepen our compassion and support for those who experience anxiety. Some say we live in an age of anxiety, and they may be right. In my time as a psychologist, I've seen a lot of people who struggle with anxiety, a lot of people trying to figure out what it is and how to manage it. At the University Counseling Center where I work, anxiety is the most common pressing concern, the most common reason that someone is seeking out mental health treatment. And it's been that way for several years now. In his book exploring the topic of anxiety, including his own personal experiences, journalist and author Scott Stossel reports, anxiety and its associated disorders represent the most common form of classified mental illness in the United States today, more common ever than depression, even than depression and other mood disorders. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, some 40 million Americans, nearly 1 in 7 of us, are suffering from some kind of anxiety disorder at any given time, accounting for 31% of the expenditures on mental health care in the United States. According to recent epidemiological data, the lifetime incidence of anxiety disorder is more than 25%, which, if true, means that 1 in 4 of us can expect to be stricken by debilitating anxiety at some point in our lifetimes. And his book was published before the COVID pandemic. I wonder how those numbers may have shifted. So I hope that these statistics, these millions of people dealing with anxiety every day, encourage us to practice compassion. If you don't experience anxiety, I invite you to try and walk in their shoes, to imagine what it must be like to have anxiety following you around, constantly tapping you on the shoulder, asking, what if? And if you are someone with anxiety, I hope you can have compassion towards yourself and remember that you are not alone. So please hold those invitations in mind as we rise in body or spirit and sing our opening hymn, When I Am Frightened.
As I mentioned, we're at the beginning of stewardship season. I'd like to invite Dwayne DeTemple forward to offer a stewardship testimonial.
Thank you, Julie. When Martha asked me, I started thinking about all the times in the church beginning in the 1970s. And there's so many things I could go on for the whole morning, but I'm going to restrict myself to three areas, actually. Now, the first one comes from kind of our early history. Coming to Pullman in 1970, the church at that time was not functioning. But by the time we had two daughters, 3 and 5 roughly, and we really wanted them to experience religious education. And we did find some other UUs that were interested in reestablishing a UU presence on the Palouse, and we worked to make that happen. The good outcome from that emergence of the church was that our two daughters, Rachel and Jill, could experience the education throughout their time in Pullman. Did that work? Well, I think so. And if any of you know our two daughters, you would, I think, agree. Jill, our older girl, after graduation from college, joined the Peace Corps as a volunteer in Ecuador for 3 years. She returned to the country to pursue graduate work in religious studies, starting with her master's at Harvard Divinity School and finishing her PhD at the University of North Carolina. And she's now been for nearly 20 years in the Faculty of Religious Studies at Southern Methodist and is currently department chairman. That's quite an event. We're so proud of her. Our younger daughter, Rachel, is similarly, I think, prepared from the church experience. Immediately after graduation from her college, she served as public service in Seattle for a year, then joined the Mississippi Teacher Corps for 3 years, teaching impoverished children of the Mississippi Delta. And since that time, she's been in Alaska now for over 20 years as a national board certified teacher, has won teaching awards, and does an amazing work for her students. I think Jen and I both give tremendous credit for the experience in the UU program throughout their formative years. The second item I wanted to mention is generosity. It's up here on the side. I'm really proud of our church for putting its money where its mouth is. We had a consultant during that time of our former minister, Kale Rice, and she had invited a consultant to be with us for, I think, almost 2 weeks with a lot of good ideas. And I think what resonated with many of us was that we're basically mostly a privileged group that can afford easily to give in ways that support the principles that we talk about. This is the response of the church was to establish the Month of Sundays program that's been happening now for many years. Mary Jo would be more knowledgeable of the exact time and the money that's been donated, but it's up in the tens of thousands of dollars by this time. And we give all of the plate collection or basket collection, maybe we should say, every morning. 100% of that goes to support organizations in our community like Family Promise, Habitat for Humanity, Planned Parenthood, and I could list, there's just a tremendous long list of organizations that really are supporting people in need in our Palouse community. I'm so proud to belong to a church that does that kind of work, and I'm happy to support the church for that generosity. The last thing I wanted to mention was, we depend on professionals in our life. We have doctors, we have dentists, we have police protection, fire protection, all these things. They protect our health and our mental health and all that. But if this is the correct word, how do we kind of nourish our soul? And that's where the church really, I think, for my family has played an important role. In this church, we have what I consider a dream team of staff. The Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Stevens. We have Dr. Sam Welsh that not only directs the piano or plays directs the music program, but also is taking care of some of the technical issues that allow us to have a hybrid service. We also have people looking after family ministry with Ginger Yoder, who grew up in this church, by the way, and Ryan Uri. There's a secretary, Summer Stevens, has been with us for I don't know how many years, but it's like in decades. And there's some other people like Alex and child care people that we support, the janitorial services. There are a lot of expenses to make this church happen. So I think when you get your, and maybe you already have received your pledge materials, think about what the church can mean to you. And as we've heard earlier, give till it really feels good. So thank you for your attention this morning, and let's keep this place going at full blast. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. And speaking of Month of Sundays, Mary Jo has a check to present.
Hi, as Julie says, I'm here for the Month of Sundays Committee, and you probably maybe remember Amara. It's such a pretty name. She spoke to us a couple of weeks ago about a program that she's working with. It's Outside In, is that correct?
Yeah, Prison Education Initiative.
Prison Education Initiative. Anyway, so that was the fifth Sunday. As you know, the fifth Sunday collection goes to someone or a group that is not necessarily serving direct people in our community, but maybe a larger issue that we as a church completely support. And we were able to collect for her project $593.78. It's pretty good for a one-day collection. And we're so happy we can give it to you.
Thank you. Now let's take a moment to engage in the practice of generosity together. For those of you able to make a financial contribution, the logistics are on your screen. We typically give away all of our the cash from our Sunday offering to local charities whose missions align with our values, a program called Month of Sundays, as we've been talking about. It's so wonderful. This month, the recipient is Inland Oasis, a volunteer organization providing support to the LGBTQ+ community through educational, social, and health programming, including the Westside Food Pantry, a community center, an emergency fund for those in immediate need, a youth support group, and social activities like drag bingo and game nights. To donate, please indicate Month of Sundays on your check or from the online drop-down menu. In the spirit of love and for the continuing work of this church, we will now take some time to practice generosity together.
Though we'll soon share joys and sorrows in our personal lives, I just want to take a moment to speak about our candle of broader concern. Today, we have lit it for those impacted by conflict and violence in Israel and Palestine. In the face of tragedy and disaster, we affirm the sacredness of life. In the face of violence, we recommit to the work of creating peace. In the face of division, polarization, and dehumanizing language, we seek to recognize the inherent worth of every person and strive to build bridges of understanding. So breathe with me. Breathe in the anger, the pain, the sorrow. Breathe out love. Breathe out peace. And now I'll invite Elizabeth Berlinger, a member of our pastoral care team, forward to lead the lighting of candles of joy and sorrow. Now I would like to invite you into a time of meditation and stillness. Today I will be leading you through a brief guided meditation. So begin by getting comfortable, adjusting your position or posture so that you can allow your attention to turn inward. And of course, you are welcome to stop participating in this meditation at any point if you need to. Bring your attention to your breath. Notice the gentle rhythm as you breathe in and breathe out. Feel the chair supporting you. Feel your feet on the floor. You're welcome to close your eyes if you wish, or soften your gaze so that you're not really focusing on anything in particular. I would like to invite you to picture the ocean. Imagine that your mind is like the ocean. The waves and the weather represent your thoughts and emotions. Each one of you has your own unique ocean in your mind. Now imagine yourself out in a boat or standing on the beach. Notice how the weather and the water are always changing. Some days, the surface of your mind may be very calm. The water is completely smooth and only reflects the sky. Some days, when you are experiencing stress or difficulty, the water may be more choppy and the wind blows more strongly. One day is foggy, the next day is sunny, the day after that it rains. And you do your best to adapt to the weather, to navigate your thoughts and emotions, to sail on troubled waters. Now I would like to invite you to expand your awareness to those around you. Be curious for a moment about how someone near you might be feeling. What is the ocean like in their mind today? Imagine how they might feel trying to navigate in their own little boat across the ocean of their mind. If today is a relatively calm day in your mind, sit for a moment with the possibility that the person sitting next to you is dealing with choppy waves or thunderstorms. And if today is a stormy day for you, I invite you to sit for a moment in the awareness that you are not alone. Others in this community are having a stormy day too. And may we all remember that it will change. No weather pattern lasts forever. Then, when you feel ready, open your eyes and bring your attention back to this room and listen to this gift of music. I love that song. To me, the core message of that song is empathy and a commitment to help. There's someone out there experiencing troubled waters. It might be sadness, loneliness, stress, anger, grief. It might be anxiety. The water in their mind is troubled, the wind is blowing, the waves are choppy, and the speaker in the song wants to help, to be like a bridge, a powerful symbol of connection. I love those responses in the lyrics. I'm on your side. I will comfort you. If you need a friend, I'm sailing right behind. I will ease your mind. Today, I am inviting us to focus in particular on those who experience anxiety and explore how we can be that friend, how we can be on their side. But before we get into that, I want to mention a few things. First, for those listening who experience anxiety, I know it may be uncomfortable listening to a sermon discussing anxiety, so please do what you need to take care of yourself. Second, although I am a psychologist who works with people who have anxiety, my thoughts today also come from my own personal experiences and are not intended as any sort of treatment recommendation. And lastly, just a reminder that everyone's experience is unique. Although there are things in common, there is also incredible variety in when and how people experience anxiety. I want to begin by opening our hearts, by trying to step into the shoes of someone with anxiety. I'm going to read someone's description of what anxiety felt like when she was a child, and I invite you to notice how you feel emotionally, to imagine how you might respond if she were sitting next to you on the couch and sharing her experience. This is by Amanda Stern from her book, Little Panic: Dispatches from an Anxious Life. Ordinary things like the dimming sun, lowering lights, the fresh spray of stars, or the first smell inside a new season's breeze fill me with grief, a pressing dread, although I can never figure out what I'm mourning. Even when there's nothing to feel afraid of, I feel or fear like something very terrible is going to happen. My chest and stomach fill with butterflies, a heat presses up under my skin, and my body vibrates like someone's drawing a chaotic black and white scribble and won't stop. I feel like this almost all the time. I want to feel safe, but I don't know how. Whenever I am afraid, worry sounds itself as 60, maybe 70 radio channels playing at the same time inside my head. Refrains loop around and around my brain like fast jabber, and I cannot get any of it to stop. I know there is something wrong with me, but nobody knows how to fix me. Not anyone outside my body, and definitely not me. Eddie says, a body is blood and bones and skin, and when everything falls off, you're a skeleton, but I am air pressure and tingly dots, energy and everything. I am air and nothing. I try to explain to adults how I'm feeling. If I try to explain to adults how I'm feeling, they say I'm being overdramatic. Adults always say that kids have it easy, that they wish they could go back to childhood. The kids around me are carefree and happy, but I'm not, and life doesn't feel easy for me, ever. Which means I'm being a kid in the wrong way. So how do you respond to Amanda? What might you say? What would you do? I notice that for me, I feel a desire to comfort Amanda. I want to tell little Amanda that she is worthy exactly as she is. If you have someone in your life with anxiety, like a friend, a colleague at work, a sibling, a parent, a neighbor, I invite you to think of that person. What comes up for you when they talk about or show signs of anxiety? I want to go through various ways of how people might respond to someone with anxiety. Each of these approaches might be helpful for some people in some instances, but I'm going to suggest that we use love as a lens to look at each approach. So ask yourself, what is loving or not loving about this approach? And if you are someone who experiences anxiety, perhaps you have used some of these approaches in dealing with your own anxiety. I would invite you to consider, how is this loving or not loving toward yourself? The distanced approach. When you are anxious, I try to help by staying away. I might tell myself that you need space. I decide that it's probably best to let you handle anxiety on your own. Or maybe I still interact with you, but I ignore anything related to your anxiety, or I try to pretend like I haven't noticed any difference. The intellectual approach. When you are anxious, I try to help by sharing information. I hope that facts will ease your mind. So, for example, if you are anxious when flying and worry about the plane crashing, I might share how many planes successfully take off and land every day all around the world. The rational approach. When you are anxious, I try to help by pointing out how your worries are irrational. I hope that seeing what is logical or rational will help you let go of irrational thoughts, and you'll feel more peaceful. When you can't stop replaying in your mind what you said in the committee meeting, and you tell me how worried you are that you offended everyone and that you're thinking of leaving the committee, I might say something like, I'm pretty sure you didn't offend every person in that room. If someone was really bothered by something you said, they'll talk to you about it. What happened, happened, and no matter how many times you replay the conversation in your mind, it won't change the past. It's better to just let those thoughts go. In my own life, this is an approach that I have tended towards, and I have worked on using it less. Both of my parents are people who value being rational. They have read books, gone to seminars, and listened to podcasts that talk about thinking errors and the psychology of the mind. I've noticed that I have used this approach in some conversations with my wife and a few times with my kids. Now, I'm not saying that this approach is bad. Like I said, each of these approaches may work for some people some of the time. But I have noticed that with the rational approach, it's easy for me to slip into feeling right and seeing the anxious person as being wrong. And even worse, when I point out their rational thinking, they feel both anxious and now they feel like it's their fault for thinking in a way which made them anxious. The wisdom approach. When you are anxious, I try to help by sharing perspectives I have gained over additional years of experience. I call this the older and wiser approach. I hope that understanding how anxiety is impermanent, or knowing that you will feel differently months or years from now, will make your anxiety seem smaller and more manageable. This is especially easy to do when children or teenagers are anxious. When I was in junior high, I was very self-conscious and felt so different from most of my peers. And I had a couple of meetings with the school counselor. She offered some helpful suggestions, but also tried to reassure me by explaining how in junior high, everyone wants to be exactly the same. And then in high school, people want to start finding kind of their own unique thing. And then when you get to college, everyone's just able to be completely unique, and you find your group and you can just do whatever you want. Now, to be fair to Dr. Bowler, I don't think that's maybe exactly how she said it, but that's how I heard it. And I remember as a 7th grader feeling like college was very far away. The positivity approach. When you are anxious, I try to help by pointing out positive things. I hope that by shifting your focus away from your anxious thoughts and towards something positive will help you feel better. I might point out things to be grateful for, ask you to name something you're good at, or something you like about yourself. I might have the belief that focusing on the anxiety and talking about it will make it worse. In the Pixar movie Inside Out, which is, as a psychologist, a personal favorite of mine, this is, it's a film where the protagonist, the emotions in her mind are portrayed as different characters. And you'll notice that this positivity approach is the default approach for the character Joy. She always tries to frame things in a positive light, but at times she's dismissive and she struggles to process big emotions like grief and loss. And incidentally, yesterday, I was watching YouTube, as one does when you don't have a lot to do in your cold house. And I saw a trailer for the sequel that's coming out, Inside Out 2, which is coming out in summer. And one of the new characters is anxiety. So, next approach is the worried about making a mistake approach. When you are anxious, I struggle to help because I'm so worried about saying the wrong thing or making your anxiety worse. I sincerely want to help. I see your anxiety as valid and deserving of support, and I feel like there's a right or a best way of how to respond, but I doubt my sense of what that might be. I might keep asking you what you need, seek reassurance by asking if what I'm doing, is this helpful? Is this working? Or I might take a really long time to respond to your text message, and when I do respond, it's a short, vaguely encouraging message. The frustration approach. When you are anxious, I get frustrated. I hope that by seeing my frustration, you will snap out of it and stop being anxious. If you are a child feeling intense fear about going to the first day of school and not wanting to leave your room, I might repeatedly emphasize how we don't have time for this and we're going to be late, in hopes that I will get you to cooperate in getting to school. Maybe underneath my frustration, I'm actually feeling tired, feeling worn out by supporting you with your anxiety. But you probably already know that, and you feel guilty about how your anxiety impacts my life. The rescuing approach. When you are anxious, I want to rescue you. I hope that there is some solution to make the anxiety go away. I might support any course of action that will remove the anxiety. If you're anxious about giving a presentation, you don't have to give it. If you are anxious about traveling to visit a family for the holidays, I encourage you to stay home. I may have a hope that some medication out there will solve all of your problems, and if you still seem anxious, I encourage you to go back to your doctor and maybe talk about a higher dose or maybe changing to a different medication. And sometimes it breaks my heart when I can't save you from your anxiety. And now the final approach that I want to mention, the compassionate approach. When you are anxious, I try to help by being with you. The word compassion literally means to suffer with. Although I recognize that I can't take your anxiety away, I validate how you're feeling, and I'm willing to sit with you as you work through it. I'm willing to have the same conversation over and over again if it helps you process your anxious thoughts. I try to help you feel safe, and I also validate that life can be challenging and it's okay for things to be scary. I try to tell you that you are loved, and I remind you that having anxiety doesn't make you any less of a person, and it doesn't make me care for you any less. So how do we improve this approach? We practice. We give ourselves grace for not getting it right all of the time. We accept that it is messy. We stay open to feedback. My friend Sean has helped me learn how to be a more compassionate person. He accepts me where I am at, but also lovingly challenges me in ways that will help me grow. My wife Anne has also helped me to be more compassionate. She is constantly reminding me that it is okay to be feeling how I am feeling. And she does it the same for our children, who run a little bit on the anxious side. I love that as we head out the door to catch the school bus, she often yells out after them, "Don't forget," which our children know means don't forget how much you are loved no matter what happens today. That can be hard to remember when you deal with mental health concerns. I wish I could say to every person dealing with anxiety or depression or OCD or bipolar or ADHD, don't forget how much you are loved and worthy of love. Each of these 9 approaches could come from a place of love. Even the frustration approach is kind of connected to love. Each approach is an attempt to help someone impacted by anxiety. You may have one or two that you naturally gravitate towards, or perhaps you tend to use one approach with a friend, but a different one with a child. I would invite you to consider how your approach is impacting the person you are supporting. Ask for feedback and be willing to adapt if needed, and let love guide you. Let's try to stay focused on using our loving hearts to support those with anxious minds. It can be easy to get distracted. We can ask questions about why anxiety diagnoses are increasing. We might be intrigued that anxiety medications existed before anxiety diagnoses were added to the Manual of Mental Health Disorders in 1980. So actually, you couldn't get diagnosed with an anxiety disorder before 1980. It was called something else. We might have opinions about how helicopter parenting, the isolation of the COVID pandemic, or social media are impacting resiliency and perhaps causing anxiety disorders. But at the end of the day, the person in front of you is suffering. And maybe like little Amanda, they want to feel safe, but they don't know how. And worry sounds like 60 or 70 radio channels playing simultaneously in their mind. And you have the ability to be with them on their troubled waters, to go with them on their journey. May you be a blessing to them. Now, our closing hymn, if you want to rise in body or spirit, whatever, and our closing hymn is We Give Thanks. Please be seated. Our closing reading today is a letter written by a therapist. This is An Open Letter to the Friends and Family of Those with Anxiety by Amber Benzinger. Dear friends and family, please do not give up on your loved one. They need you. Trust me, I know it can be frustrating and you feel helpless at times. In those times of exasperation, try to pause for a moment and be empathetic. Try and imagine how frustrated they must be feeling. They want to communicate with you. They want to explain to you where it is coming from and why. They wish it was as easy as hearing you say, just don't worry about it. But it's not. They especially don't want to let you down. They don't want to be a burden. They love you so much, but live in fear that you will someday get tired and walk away. Why? Because it might be too much to handle, which means they are too much to handle. Please, please don't give up on them. Remind them that they are doing the best they can. Remind them that they don't have to live in fear. Remember that you are having a front row seat to their internal struggle. Be their shoulder to cry on and an ear to listen. Now, thank you. Thank you for the support. When they don't want to talk or don't know how to talk about what is going on, your reliability allows them space to be more gentle with themselves. Thank you for helping pick up the pieces after one of the many times of panic and emotional breakdowns. Thank you for not judging or shunning when you're pushed away over and over again. For not complaining when the fear tells them that you are never there for them. Thank you for your continued fight against mental health stigma and for bringing awareness to the normalcy of mental health struggles. Thank you for advocating for your friend and family when they didn't know how or were unable to advocate for themselves. Thank you for your willingness to learn and educate others. Thank you for reassuring them and distracting them from themselves. Thank you for being you and for loving unconditionally. Here's to you. You may get frustrated, be confused, or become drained. Nevertheless, you continue along this journey. Your friend or family member is in a better place because of your support, encouragement, humor, and love. When you love someone, it's difficult to separate and focus on yourself, especially when you see them in pain. It's crucial that you don't forget to take care of yourself regularly. Self-care is pivotal for everyone to be successful, which means taking space for yourself when you feel overwhelmed, establishing boundaries that work for you, and doing your own mental health work. Stay strong for yourself, stay strong for your loved one, and when you can't stay strong, know that you are loved. And now we'll end with our musical benediction, There Is a Love. So please join me in the word for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this chalice that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light our paths as we leave this place. May it guide our way until we are together again. Thank you for being with those who are anxious. If you're anxious, thank you for being you and being here and being part of our community. And may we all find ways to support each other with all our struggles, with all our troubled waters. Thank you, and come back next week, and please join us for coffee downstairs.